Softprom. Thank you. I would like to thank also Softprom for organizing this webinar. I'm really happy that we are doing again another webinar in Romania. To introduce myself, my name is Alessandro Michea. I am, let's say, responsible for the commercial side of some countries in Eastern Europe and Italy. You may recognize my name is Italian. I'm here with me today. I have David Higgs, our senior solution engineer. He's gonna be the main character in this presentation. The way we decided to set it up, David can present more technical, let's say, things together with the vision of Rapid7. We will work together let's say, as a tag team, and I will be also in charge for the Q&A session. So feel free to drop every moment a question in the Q&A session here in Zoom. I will try to answer in the Q&A session. Otherwise, if it's more technical, David can take the answer, and we're gonna manage in this way. I have to say honest, me and David, we are quite happy with this concept that Bogdan shared with us about this historical tale from Romania, which basically, well, translated in Romanian, it seems more, let's say, cool, but we are not able to do that. Sorry, guys, the video. We are not able. I'm not able to say it in Romania. So the concept 7 in 1 blow. Apart from Rapid7 and the 7 of Rapid7, the reason behind this is because our platform today is covering 7 main big aspects to, let's say, again, one platform, so in 1 blow. And let's see if we can manage to become king like the Taylor in this tale. But I will leave the word to David, so he's gonna introduce himself a little bit more, and we can start from there. And again, feel free to drop any question in the Q&A session. I will keep monitoring and answer. On to you.
Thanks, Ale. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, my name is David Higgs. I am the Senior Security Solution Engineer for Rapid7 for the region. So I have been working for Rapid7 for around about 2 years, been in the security industry just over 5 years now. And yeah, I take customers through proof of concepts. I do demos with them. I talk about thought leadership. So very happy to answer questions around our products and most importantly, the use of our products. I think there's a lot of ground to be gained from how we operationalize our products within customer environments. So yes, 7 in 1 blow, that is our concept for today. So we've broken our task down into the giants, the 7 giants from the tail. So first of all, we're going to show you how to prioritize and remediate vulnerabilities within Insight VM, so that all important operational side of things. Then we're going to go through managing cloud security posture with Insight CloudSec, show you how to secure those cloud workloads, govern identity and access management as well. We've then got Insight AppSec as giant number 3, which is looking at SQL injection, and then how to actually use the tool for security teams to work with development teams in relative harmony. And then giant number 4, we've got our leak credentials. This is from our threat intel acquisition. So we take you through our threat intelligence tool and how you might deal with leak credentials in those instances. We've got suspicious processes execution within Insight IDR. I'll take you through an investigation and quarantine of an endpoint. Giant number 6, we've got hunting for artifacts. So this is using our tool Velociraptor, so our digital forensics and incident response tool, and then phishing, threat intelligence, IDR, and Insight Connect. Insight Connect is our SOAR tool, so we're kind of bringing all of those elements together at the end. I saw someone raise their hand. Are there any questions at this early stage, or?
I think it was test.
Okay, cool. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into fastest way to prioritize and remediate vulnerabilities. So I'm going to take you now into inside VM. So let's jump into our platform. I'm just going to go back to my customer table. So when first logging into the inside platform, we have our executive risk view. So this is for Cloud Risk Complete customers. This is a commercial bundle that we have in place around inside CloudSec and inside VM that essentially licenses both products. And it gets you these kind of nice executive level stats, things like mean time to remediate. So this is a really good overall indicator of an organization's health when it comes to patch management. Focusing on the mean time to remediate, so ensuring that comes down over time. And this is from the point that a vulnerability or CVE is discovered within the infrastructure to the point that it's actually remediated. Um, you can then scope that to a particular part of your infrastructure. So let's say you're just focusing on critical elements, um, then you can scope that accordingly and use tagging appropriately within Insight VM and Insight CloudSec. But let's jump into the product itself. So we go to the home screen, we see all of our products across the top here. And I'm going to go into Insight VM now. Insight VM is our on-premise vulnerability management platform. It's originally came from the Nexpose platform. So what we've essentially done is we've taken that Nexpose console that everyone loved. We've kept a lot of the great elements of it, and in fact, you can still buy the Nexpose console as it is. It's always getting feature updates and content updates with new vulnerabilities. In fact, just last month, so the month of May, we added approximately 750 new CVEs to the platform, as well as adding, I think it was 2,500 new descriptors, and again, another 750 updated CVEs. So we're constantly working to improve the content of our vulnerability checks within the platform itself. Insight VM adds some additional data crunching capabilities to the platform. So what we're doing is we're taking all of that vulnerability data that we harvest within the Nexpose console itself, and then we're using the power of the cloud to then crunch through that information. Why are we doing that? Well, what that gives us is the ability to create more effective remediation projects, and it help customers to essentially work faster and easier towards what their actual end goal is, which is remediation. There's many steps that are incorporated with the vulnerability management lifecycle. So you've got your scanning, discovery. You've then got visibility of all of those assets in your environment. Then you're looking at some sort of prioritization based on either CVSS or risk. And then you create your remediation work. What we're aiming to do is trying to cut those steps out and get the customer to the point where they can start remediating straight away. It cuts down on time, so works towards reducing that mean time to remediation. So how do we do that? Well, firstly, let me just explain a few basic concepts within the platform itself. So here we have the assets view. We can see all of our scanned assets. We can see the operating system, IP address, name, and the site that it's associated with. You'll also see on the right-hand side here, we've got a number of vulnerabilities on the asset. We can also see a risk score of the asset itself. So this is quite high. I'm sure you'll agree. And the reason it's this high is because we actually take the vulnerabilities, and each vulnerability has a corresponding risk score out of 1,000. Normally, people would use CVSS. Well, our score out of 1,000 takes into account lots of additional metrics and data. So it will look at things like, is there actually a Metasploit exploit for it? Is there any active malware kits available for this vulnerability? So let's explore this a little bit deeper. So I'm going to go into the asset itself now. So we see here we have our original risk score. This original risk score is the sum of all of these active risk scores here. Now, to go into a little bit of how this active risk score is created, I'm going to go back to our slides. So we use a number of metrics. First of all, we'll talk about the Metasploit community. So Rapid7, we own the Metasploit framework, and we're ingesting data from that. So let's say, for example, we have a CVE that has an exploit for Metasploit. Well, that in theory would increase the risk score because it opens up that exploit to be used by a larger group of attackers. Secondly, if that exploit is easy to use, so let's say it can be used by like a novice attacker, for example, then again, that would increase the risk score. And then further to that, let's say that the exploit is really reliable. So it works first time, every time. Not necessarily like a buffer overflow, which you may have like a few attempts to actually get it to succeed, which would create a lot of noise, which would attract attention. So there's metrics we've taken from the Metasploit community. Second, we have Project Heisenberg. So this is our global honeypot project. It was recently renamed as Project Lorelei. So a bit of trivia for you. Lorelei was the name of a German mermaid who used to lure ships off course and crash them in the rocks. Now, the improvements that Rapid7 have made to our honeypots over the last 12 months. Firstly, we have in excess of 150 honeypots across 5 continents. Second, many honeypots services out there look at scanning traffic. And this can sometimes be misleading because you may have scans around associated vulnerability, lots of bots scanning, but not actually exploiting or not actually successfully exploiting. So what Rapid7 are concentrating on with our honeypots is successful exploitation of vulnerabilities within the honeypots, successful payloads. And what this yields is higher fidelity results, so more accurate, reliable results on what attackers are actually trying to attack, and getting away from some of that noise that is the scan traffic. We then have Project Sonar. Project Sonar is Rapid7's equivalent of the Showdown project. So we would know, for example, if there was a vulnerability, or rather an exploit developed for a vulnerability within Windows Server 2012, for example, we know because of this data where we scan the internet for open services and operating systems, etc. Approximately half of all the Windows servers that are on the internet right now are Server 2012. So we know if an exploit was developed for a vulnerability for Server 2012, that would likely be used at quite a large scale, and so would again increase the risk score. And then finally, we have Rapid7's Managed Detection and Response service. And you may say, okay, well, how does Rapid7's Managed Detection and Response service benefit me as an Insight VM vulnerability management customer? If you go to the Rapid7 blog, just Google Rapid7 blog, you will be able to see data from our emergent threats team. And in fact, let me just see if I can get one of our recent posts. So essentially, we work with end customers, and our sorry, I'll just excuse me for a second. Emergent threat response. So here's a recent example of what our emergent threat teams are working on. So you see here, this was updated yesterday, and this was around a mal-advertising campaign that's installing backdoors identified as Oyster, but also known as Broomstick. So yeah, the teams are working on all of the latest trends that you see. And the reason we're able to do this is because we are actually seeing live data in real customer environments. And so how does this translate back? We've actually discovered over the course of the last couple of years, several 0 days within customer environments. So a famous one recently was the Move IT vulnerability. Rapid7 discovered that in a real customer environment. We were then able to use our in-house incident responders and digital forensics teams, making use of tools like Velociraptor, which Rapid7 own, digital forensics and incident response community-driven tool. It's kind of like the digital forensics equivalent of the Metasploit framework. So we have in-house incident response, who were then able to forensically inspect and then reverse engineer that exploit to create a detection for our XDR and SIEM customers, and then also for our Insight VM and CloudSec customers. So it's very common when we discover a 0 day that you will see within a 24-hour period that there will be a detection created for Insight VM and made available for every single Insight VM customer. So this is the benefit that you're getting from being a Rapid7 customer. All of that awesome intelligence that we're providing around particular vulnerabilities.
David, we have a question about our projects. If any of our projects have been integrated with the AI.
None of the projects are integrated with AI at the moment. That being said, we have been using kind of machine learning models within our products for quite a while. So tools like Nexpose, we have the expert model that was kind of pioneering at the time. Insight IDR, we focus on TTPs, so not necessarily IOCs. TTPs being a bit more kind of future-proof, whereas IOCs, you kind of need to keep quite on top of those. What we're starting to introduce with AI is we're leveraging AI for our researchers. So when it comes to creating detections for Insight VM, our researchers are using large language models with other vendors' documentation. So what this means is that they're able to then do their research much faster. They're then able to create detections much faster. The other things we're doing with AI is we are leveraging this with our managed detection and response teams. So our SOC analysts are leveraging AI to assist them with their triage of events and investigations. So what we're doing is we're taking a measured approach when it comes to AI, and I would always encourage customers when looking at AI to um, really kind of question vendors who say, yes, we have AI with this, we AI with that. Ask them what exactly they are doing with AI. Because if they can't explain to you very clearly, then it's kind of just a marketing trick. So that would kind of be my advice around that. Um, but yeah, as I say, we're using it in our research. We're taking a very structured and measured approach, introducing elements bit by bit, so that we can kind of control the introduction of AI into our research and into our platforms. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I would like also to add that, as you were saying, one of our, let's say, research is coming also from our MDR team. They are using AI in their SOC to manage, some alerts and some investigation, which also means that we are creating reports, and basically on all these findings that we are finding, that we are, discovering, we were able to find some 0 days. So AI somehow is integrated, especially in our back end, to provide the best of the informations that we can on in our products.
Yeah, cool. Um, okay, so what were we talking about? We were talking about our active risk score.
Yeah.
So I've spoken about all of the elements that go into that, but uh, how to explain this more in simple terms? I like to use an analogy. So I would say, okay, the way we would explain the difference between CVSS and Rapid7's active risk is if you imagine you have left your phone in your car. Now, how likely is your phone to be stolen? Well, that depends on where your car's parked. If your car is parked, let's say in a nice quiet area, let's say you live in a very quiet area, who's likely to actually see your phone to begin with? Maybe the postman, maybe your neighbor. Very low likelihood of the phone being stolen. Let's say the phone is parked in a bad area of town, where lots of nefarious people are walking past. The likelihood of your phone being stolen actually increases. Um, Now, let's say, for example, the method to steal the phone is to smash the window. Now, smashing the window, um, what CVSS will tell you, sorry, is how hard that window is to smash, which is exactly the same when your car is in the bad area of town to where your car is outside your house. Um, so that's all it will really give you, unless you really go to the trouble of kind of enhancing the other vectors, which many 99.999% of customers don't do. So what Rapid7 is providing with the active risk is giving you that contextual information that tells you, okay, what what is the context surrounding this? So giving you that much more relevant information that gives you that better indication as to um, how much more likely that CVE is to be exploited. And so all of these vulnerabilities here with the risk score of 1000 all add up to create this risk score here on the asset. We then have the context-driven risk score, which incorporates criticality levels. So this is, for example, if the asset is part of your critical assets, you would then say, okay, we're going to make this very high. If you want to, we can edit that information as well. So we can change the criticality here. If I was to put that as very low, then that would half the risk score. And medium would do keep it neutral. So now that we've kind of spoken about Rapid7 Active Risk, I'm going to show you how we advise customers to manage vulnerabilities within the infrastructure. So we come to this section here, which is remediation projects. Now, this is a feature within Insight VM. It's a feature we use the cloud for. And essentially what it allows me to do is create a project with a specific scope. Um, so we'll call this remediation project. And then I can start adding scope here. So let's say software product contains Adobe, for example, and we'll apply that. And you can see here we've got 356 assets. It's calculating the number of vulnerabilities. So over 44,000 vulnerabilities, but just 4,000 solutions. I will add some more scope to that. So let's say focus on a specific site. Say in our Austin office, let's see if we've got, okay, so 15 assets, 784 solutions, and 10,000 vulnerabilities. And so you get the idea. We can adjust the scope accordingly. We can then assign it to one or several users. We can set a due date. So let's say I want to have this remediated by the end of the month. And then we can integrate with ticketing solutions. So let's say ServiceNow or Jira. We can add that in here as well, and it will go off and create the ticket within that solution accordingly. And then we can review and hit save and complete. Now, this will take a few minutes to actually populate the project because we've got a load of vulnerability data to actually crunch through. So what I'm going to do is go to one I made previously. So in this one instance, we've got the query is Adobe software, and vulnerability skill level contains novice. So this is earlier when I was talking about the Metasploit intel. If the exploit can be used by a novice attacker, then this is now in the scope. We have 192 solutions across 236 assets. Now, what we can do here, and all of these solutions, this is a piece of work to complete. So we can go through our solutions, see what they are. Now, what I advise customers to do is to sort the solutions by risk reduction. And the reason being is this is one piece of work, and this is going to reduce the risk the most. So if I sort by the highest first, we see, okay, upgrading Firefox. I mean, this is fairly straightforward. 50 assets are affected, 4 vulnerabilities. Now, with this scope, obviously I've asked for Adobe. This is just grabbing all of the assets that have Adobe on, and then looking at the vulnerability skill level contains novice. So what it's also pulling in is vulnerability data on the assets outside of just Adobe as well. But these are all the assets that do have Adobe software, if that makes sense. So if I wanted, I could, search the solutions for an Adobe specific one. So here, for example, we've got upgrade Flash Player. See the summary information, the total risk reduction, solution we've provided. The upgrade is pretty straightforward. Ticketing integration. we also provide the affected assets, which you can export to CSV. And we're also providing the vulnerabilities that you're going to fix through this remediation work. Other things we got, so here we've got an example of a KV article, so we can see the fix information there. So remediation projects is one of the first areas we kind of show customers how to remediate more effectively. It allows you to create a specific scope and then allows you to focus on the piece of work that is going to kind of give you the most reward. So the next area I advise to look at is goals and SLAs. So in here, we can create a ongoing goal and SLA. So this might be, for example, we want to remediate Patch Tuesday vulnerabilities within a certain period of time. Now, I'll use an example and I'll say, okay, we want 100% of those Patch Tuesday vulnerabilities remediated within 30 days of discovery. Now, you may say that's completely unrealistic for my infrastructure. And for enterprises, I would be inclined to agree. So you might say, okay, well, let's add some more scope to that. So I might create a site, and I don't know if this exists or not. That is, let's say, end users. So you could apply that scope of end users, which would be separate to your server infrastructure, and then that might actually be more achievable. Or you might say, okay, we can definitely achieve 80% within 30 days, and then you might set a secondary goal that says we aim to achieve 100% within 45 days. And then you hit continue, we can review that and then create the SLA and goal. We can add this to our dashboard as well, and we can share goal with other users. Now let's go to one I made earlier. So this one's to remove the obsolete operating systems. In fact, let's go to another one because I want to be able to show you ongoing progress towards that. So let's use this one. So this is remediating critical vulnerabilities within 30 days of discovery. Now we see here we have a graph of ongoing progress towards that goal. Now, this is our demo solution, so no one's actually remediating anything because we want to have demo data for you, and that's why this graph doesn't show any progress towards that. So what we have the ability to do from in here now is to say, okay, I can see all the vulnerabilities. We can actually sort by assets if we wanted to. I could select, let's say, 5 of these, and then we can create a static remediation project based on this scope. So it pre-populates the remediation project accordingly. We can assign it to the specific users we want, set the due date. So I'm going to say end of the month, add our ticketing connection, and then review and create that. So what goals and SLAs do is they allow you to create an overall strategy. And then within the goals and SLAs, you can actually then create tactical pieces of work. So your static remediation projects, which you can then go and deliver to your remediations team to go and complete. So this helps you form the overall strategy. You get an idea of the overall progress towards your goal. You can also set that as an ongoing goal. And then the remediation projects are those kind of tactical pieces of work. So you breaking the SLA down into like more bite-size pieces to then go and execute on. And you saw here there were, I mean, this was a nice one as well. So removing obsolete operating systems. So let's say you have a job to remove Server 2012 from your infrastructure, and you are taking those on-premise servers, and let's say you are moving them to the cloud. This remediation project would then show you your progress towards that over time. And you can obviously set your goal of being able to do that within a specific time window. You can see whether the project is at risk. So this is great for showing to stakeholders to help you manage the project and that risk within your infrastructure of the migration. So we spoke about cloud migrations, which kind of nicely brings us on to our next subject, which is managing cloud security posture and secure cloud workloads within the cloud. Ale, do you want to add anything before I go into the next stage of the demo?
No, but we have a question for the next step. So, if you want to add your answer in your speech, is does Rapid7 provide multi-cloud integration with on-premises? In the banking industry, the architecture requires some servers to be on-prem with integrations on multi-cloud.
Okay, so I would say in that instance, we have Insight CloudSec and Insight VM as like a commercial bundle. So it's called Cloud Risk Complete. And that is kind of designed to cover both. So it will cover AWS, GCP, Azure, Oracle Cloud, Ali Cloud, and Kubernetes environments as well. And then on the on-premise side, you still have Insight VM to cover the on-premise part of the environment. So the commercial bundle is kind of aimed at hybrid cloud customers, because that's kind of where we see the future going. I hope that answers the question.
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so Insight CloudSec is our cloud security posture management platform. We also cover Kubernetes security within that, cloud workload protection, infrastructure as code in the auditing Terraform and CloudFormation templates, a nice piece around cloud identity and access management, and then yes, integrating into the CI/CD lifecycle for those for the DevOps team. Okay, let's now jump into how. So we have our cloud security posture management platform lives in AWS. We connect to your cloud provider's environment. So that is Azure, GCP, AWS, Ali Cloud, and Oracle Cloud. We connect via the API and then call the API to harvest the information accordingly. That is then populated in our platform. We unify that data. So we don't care if you have an S3 bucket, blob storage, Google Cloud Storage. We unify that data as storage. Same with EC2, virtual machine, Google Cloud Compute. We will call that an instance. Now, why is that even important to you? How does that help you? We are then able to run one single report across all your cloud environments. So we're running the report against our normalized data. and then that allows you to then go and act. We give you all of the information, tell you why something is non-compliant, and recommendations as well. Now, we also employ a second harvesting strategy, which is what we call our event-driven harvesting. So why do we do this? The API harvesting is great because we get lots of information. But some of the drawbacks to API harvesting is that the more you call it, the more it costs. And so definitely be aware of platforms that are calling the API very aggressively, because there will be an unforeseen cost to that when you put it into production. So Rapid7's event-driven harvesting kind of bridges this gap. What we do is we essentially create an event bus within your cloud provider's environment, um, and then harvest platform events. So that is creation, deletion, modification of resources, and also events from things like guard duty, security command center, and defender for cloud. And then what we do with that data is we extract the important logs that we need within the cloud provider environment, and then we push those events into the Rapid7 Insight CloudSec platform. The end result of this, what this actually means for you as a customer, is that we can get data for AWS within 60 seconds to 2 minutes. With GCP and Azure, you're looking at 2 to 3 minutes in ingesting that security data. So really kind of powerful feature of the platform. So let's show you this in action. So we go back to our home screen. Here we have the executive risk view again. Just to kind of reiterate, this covers Insight CloudSec and Insight VM. So we have filters here, and you can filter for cloud or on-premise. So this would be Insight CloudSec, this would be Insight VM. We can apply different badges, owner tags, etc., depending on what asset owner you wanted to look at. Or if you wanted to look at CVEs across all of the infrastructure, then you could use the top level filters we see up here. So I'm now going to go into Insight CloudSec. And here is one of the benefits of the Rapid7 platform. Because we are a SaaS provider, and that we're using cloud technology, sometimes you might come in here like I've just done now, and you will see a feature update. And these are being pushed all the time, which is great, because you don't have to set time aside to upgrade platforms. It's kind of all done for you. So that was a nice little unexpected thing that we can use as part of our demo just now, which is quite handy. So coming into Insight CloudSec, what I can do here is we can select an insight pack that is important to us. So you see here we've got lots of insight packs: AWS best practices, Azure best practices. We've got CIS benchmarks. We've got Kubernetes, FedRAMP, GDPR. I'm just going to select GDPR for now. And then we can select it across one or multiple cloud types. So I'll just select Azure and AWS. We can also select specific badges. So this uses the same concept as tagging within your cloud environment. And then either we can select down to a specific cloud account or cluster level. But I'm just going to leave that organization level, so we'll leave it blank. We can then apply this. We get an overall compliance score of the environments. So this is across AWS and Azure. we get the overall summary, critical, high, medium, low, and informational insights. So notice I say insights and not vulnerabilities. So what is an insight? Well, um, the number one thing with cloud environments is not necessarily CVEs or vulnerabilities. That's still relevant, and we will go into that. But the main thing within cloud environments is actually misconfigurations. And so, what why is this so important? Well, misconfiguration, as we know, leads to potentially vulnerable environments that can be exploited. And we saw, for instance, with the pandemic, lots of companies joined the cloud. They started migrating infrastructure over to Azure, to AWS, to Google Cloud. And when they were doing this, they may or may not have been trained to the top level within the cloud providers certifications, um, because there's a cost versus benefit trade-off. And so what we then saw was after 2 years, stuff had been spun up in production. We had misconfigured resources. We also had identity accounts that were very permissive. So too many permissions. They had too much access to too many resources. Um, but because they were running stuff in production, no one wanted to change stuff. No one wants to break production. And so these accounts persist and they stay as they are. And any kind of potential compromise of those would lead to a huge blast radius. So we combat this with several things. So let's go back to inside CloudSec. So let's jump into our critical findings. It takes us off to the compliance scorecard, and we can see here we have a traffic light system. We can see the level of compliance. Now I'm going to jump into this insight. We have the report card here, and then I can get an overview on the resource. I can then click on the resource and inspect more information. So it actually can take me off to the AWS console here. We can see the insight findings, so why we're deeming this as misconfigured. We can also see if it's got public access. We can see the full source document here. We can also perform some actions if we wish. And this will depend on the level of access that you grant inside CloudSec to your cloud platform. So some customers, we have read-only access. None of these actions are available. And then finally, we have the risk score. So this is taken into account what we call toxic combinations. So here we have the summary, whether it is publicly accessible, if there are insights against this, if it's business critical, if there's theoretical attack paths, if there are identity insights, vulnerabilities, and threat findings. Threat findings is activity within your cloud environment. So if all of these are lighting up, it's very bad. So let's go into our report card again. The other option we have here is to create a bot. So here we have an exposed storage container. So classic example, exposed S3 bucket or blob storage. We can then create a bot and it starts to pre-populate the bot. So we've got storage container here. Because we're normalizing that data, I can select all clouds and it does it across all cloud environments. Here we've got the query filter that's pre-configured. I can go next. Now we're just marking the resource as non-compliant here. But what I can also do is we can also add some notification actions. So if we wanted to send a bulk email, we could do that. If we wanted to send, say, a Slack message, we could also do that. Or let's say you wanted to create a ServiceNow incident, Splunk event, send a Slack message, Microsoft Teams message, PagerDuty. We also got create a Jira ticket of ServiceNow. and even a Insight IDR custom event for our SIEM platform. And in fact, what I didn't show you is we also have lifecycle actions. So this can actually just clean up that exposed storage container and change it back from public to private access. Next, we can schedule that hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. Or remember the event-driven harvesting where we're getting event data within 2 to 3 minutes. We can say, okay, if the resource is created or modified, etc., we can then trigger the bot from that. So we receive the event data within 2 to 3 minutes, and then we can trigger the bot to remediate it again with 2 to 3 minutes. So within a space of time that is less than 5 minutes, you've actually discovered and then remediated a vulnerable configuration. The next part I'm going to go into on this is the identity analysis. So Rapid7's threat report was released last month, and it cited that misconfigured or unconfigured multi-factor amounted to approximately 40% of the incidents that our managed detection and response teams investigated. So we give you visibility on that within your cloud environment. We can see which ones, which accounts have been have got multi-factor disabled. We can also see which accounts are inactive in the past 90 days. The other thing we're looking at here is the permissions used and unused. So we can audit this over time for Azure, GCP, and AWS. So if I was to click on this, we can see the permissions used, unused, the permission name, the level of access, so read or write, the number of times it's been used, and when it was last executed. And then we can also see that over a 7, 30, 60-day period. And then finally, we have this remediation section. So remember back when I was discussing the scenario of accounts running stuff in production that's overly permissive. What we can do here is say, okay, if this account is running stuff in production and it's got way too many permissions that are not used, we can say, okay, the permissions that you've not used in the last 90 days, we're going to create a deny action. So this means we can apply this to this account in the safe knowledge that it's not going to break stuff that's been running in the last 90 days. So this is really helping analysts kind of reduce that blast radius down to minimal permissions. So let's go on to the next part of the demo. So we've got SQL injection and working with developers. Let's go into go. So this takes us into Insight AppSec. This is our DAST scanning tool. So just to show you here, we do dynamic application security testing, integration into the CI/CD lifecycle. For those of you who are not familiar with DAST, I always like to give the analogy of a pyramid. So some people say, DAST or SAST. I say both. So what SAST would cover would be like the base of your pyramid. So it would be nice and wide, but not too deep. What DAST then covers is the middle section. So it would have a lot of depth, but the scope would be slightly smaller than SAST. And what DAST does is it essentially simulates a attacker throwing attacks at your application. And then the top level of the pyramid would be like your customized pen test. So it would be like a web app pen tester, really kind of doing like the novel stuff. So what Insight AppSec is designed to do is to run all of the typical dynamic scenarios that you would expect, so that the pen tester at kind of the tip of the pyramid can actually focus on their own abilities, and do some really kind of niche stuff. So let's go into Insight AppSec and how you might work with that. So let's show you here. We also advise for developers to definitely have access to the data within the platform, just because it helps the remediation process. So let's go into some vulnerabilities and show you how they might work with that. So in this instance, I've got a query here, contains SQL. So we're going to see a SQL injection vulnerability. I go into here and we're providing lots of information back to the developers, um, in order to remediate this vulnerability. So here we're providing some general data, first detected, last detected. We then have the number of attacks that we've run. So we've got 3 different attacks. We've got the double quote, the single quote, and then we can see the proof here on the right hand side. We also got references and recommendations, references to the OWASP website, description, and then recommendation as well. So lots of information there to assist with the education piece for the developers. They can also see the original traffic, so that original post traffic and response. And then we can see the attack traffic here, and then the corresponding response traffic. We can also see history and any comments. So if I wanted to add any comments there, we could do so accordingly. And then we also have this really cool replay attack button. Now what this will do is it will pop our Chrome plugin we see here, and it will essentially pre-populate it with the attack. So let's say for the example that the developer's working on a fix, they believe they've fixed it, they can hit the replay attack button, it will pop our Chrome plugin accordingly, and pre-populate the attack. They can then run the attack against their test environment to verify that it's being remediated successfully before they then commit their code. Insight AppSec also comes as part of the Cloud Risk Complete Advanced bundle. Okay, let's look at giant number 4, leak credentials. We've got this in our threat command platform. So with threat command, we have, or rather threat intel, we have 4 modules. So we have threat command, which is your tailored threat intelligence. So this looks at intelligence around your business specifically. We have the TIP, threat intelligence platform. This provides detail around more generalized threat intel. So we ingest, we have kind of 6 internal sources, and then we also have a number of sources you see here that we're also ingesting information on. We also have the risk analyzer. This is this works alongside Insight VM. So we import vulnerabilities, vulnerability data into there. We can also integrate with Qualys and Tenable if need be. And what we're then providing is more kind of contextual information. So mentions on the clear and deep web, mentions on the dark web and hacking forums, exploit availability and risk data, and we can see that over time as well. And then we can also see from the data we're pulling from Insight VM if you've got any affected hosts. And then we've got the threat third party. So this just runs third party reports using open source information on your supply chain. So it's kind of nice to use as part of your risk management strategy, not just relying on your supplier's ISO 27001 certificate. Okay, so let's go to threat command because this is kind of the most useful part of the platform. In here, we have several areas. So in the clear and dark web, we can see attack indication on both, data leakage, phishing as well. We'll come on to phishing at a later point in this presentation. I'm going to go into data leakage now. So um, we've got some companies' domains, user list, publicly accessible. I'm going to go into some credentials. So let's just hide that for a moment. We can see here login credentials of a company service were published on GitHub. We can see here the screenshot. We also have the source URL link. Got the description here. If we look on the right-hand side, we can see the matched asset was insights. So this is our fictitious company name. We can also see alert history. We also have the ability for you to chat with the analyst. So if you have any questions around a specific alert that's come up, you can actually engage with the analyst accordingly. And then we also have a takedown service as well. This is obviously for GitHub. We also have takedown services for social media, phishing, which we'll come to later on in the presentation. Let's also show you a compromised credentials on the dark web as well. So here we got 7 active login credentials of current employees were confirmed. So in this instance, we've got 8 employees. After verification in Active Directory was found that 7 credentials, active accounts, 3 of them are confirmed as active users with valid passwords. So we're leveraging Active Directory integration to be able to do this. What we can also do on top of that is to say, okay, we will go to our policies and we have this policy here, the active account check. So let me just go to edit those details. The alert profile is with credential leakage for Active Directory. We have, through Active Directory integration, we can validate leaked active accounts. We can also validate passwords, and then we can add in remediation to disable active accounts with valid passwords or force password reset for active accounts with valid passwords. So pretty powerful stuff from our threat command tailored intelligence module. And just to give you an idea of all the asset types we can monitor, things like bin numbers. We also have Swift codes for banking. What else have we got here? Brand names, code mentions, countries of activity, and of course, domains, external IP addresses, mobile and browser apps. That's quite an important one. Social media as well. That's a really cool one. So we often see in the banking sector, fake profiles are created. They engage with customers online and then try and transfer that conversation off to, let's say, WhatsApp or a private messaging channel, for example. So it's really kind of good to grab those fake social media profiles. And we've got like a 1-hour SLA on takedowns of LinkedIn profiles. And I'd have to double check for things like Facebook and Instagram. Next, onto suspicious process execution. So this is leveraging Insight IDR. So I'm going to go back to the platform, go to the home page. So Insight IDR is our SIEM and XDR platform. Now I'm just going to go off to our investigations now. I'll tell you what, let's just use this one actually, because this looks like a good example. So we have a timeline of events. What Insight IDR is pulling in is all of the events around this specific process. I'm going to select the alerts. So here we have an attacker tool. Credentials are dumped. I can view the alert details. We've got the evidence here. We can actually see the rule logic. And then on the right hand side, we have the payload here, and I can just highlight those matching keys. So you see the download string, PowerShell Mafia as being used, PowerSploit, and they're just invoking Mimikatz, dump credentials, and we can just reduce that completely down here accordingly. What we're also doing is providing related alerts as well. So we're focusing on the actor, which is the endpoint in question, and looking at related alerts on that endpoint. User and asset information. So we're pulling in lots of interesting, useful information as well. Some additional asset data from the agent, from the host. And we can actually, if we wanted to, let's scroll down there, we could go to the asset and it pops a new tab, takes us to that asset in question within the assets and endpoints page. But I'm going to go back to the investigation. We can see if there's any rule exceptions. We can see the audit log. You can also see the mapping to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So this is, again, giving the analyst lots of information to provide context so that they know, okay, what I want to do is we want to explore more data. So if I was to inspect actor activity, I can see someone's already done this. It pulls up lots of other information here. So processes, scheduled tasks, user sessions, and the ARP cache. I can add comments if I wanted to. We could add attachments. And then finally, I can hit this take action button. So I'm just going to select all workflows. We go continue. And if I wanted to, I could quarantine the asset. We've also got other workflows that we can use. So disable the user in Active Directory or suspend in Okta. We've got ticketing workflows to create issue in ServiceNow or Jira, and then many custom workflows as well, which can be found on the that better? I think my headphones just cut out. Hopefully everyone can hear me again.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so on the extensions library, we go to Insight IDR, we can see the workflows. By the way, you can look at this yourselves as well. This is extensions.rapid7.com, and you can see some of the pre-configured workflows that we have. So for instance, we can see if you've got Mimecast and Netscope, we've actually got a workflow that incorporates these products. Investigation details. So yes, you can take action using many of our Insight Connect workflows that you can import into Insight IDR. So that allows you to take action accordingly. It's Insight IDR as well. I've not gone through the architecture, but we have many log sources available, and then also the kind of biggest benefits of the platform is the time to value. So if we go into things like our detection rules, this is what you get out of the box. So as soon as you start running day one, you see all your log and process rules. So we have in excess of 4,700 pre-configured rules that you can use within your environment. We also have pre-configured network sensors. So this is our network traffic analyzer, and enhanced network traffic analyzer that's based on a Suricata backend. We can see here we have 6,000 detection rules here. And then for those of you who decide to have the threat command piece in place as well, you can then ingest threat intel detections inside IDR. But yes, this is certainly, one of the biggest selling points of the product is that you don't have to spend 6 months creating seam detection rules for basic things. You are up and running day one with over 4,724 detection rules, and these are the same rules that are used by our managed detection and response teams. On top of that, let's go back to our slides. On top of that, we have pre-configured honeypots as well, our agent that you can deploy within your environments. And then when it comes to the licensing, again, a really kind of important selling point of the product is that search and retention. So all licenses, so we would cover, we'll focus on advanced and ultimate here. All of them come with 13 months storage included, and we price on assets. So there's no complex calculations when it comes to things like events ingested. We just need to know the number of assets, and that is essentially the number of end users that you have and the number of servers that you have. I know what you're thinking right now. Okay, do you cover firewalls? Yes, we do cover firewall logs, but they don't count towards your licensable assets, if that makes sense. Okay, hunting for artifacts. So we acquired a few years ago a tool called Velociraptor. So I just need to jump into a different part of the platform to be able to do this. So we will go into our sandbox environment, get rid of that. Oh, in fact, I've got it here. Okay, so we are in Tatooine. Let's go into inside IDR. Our lab manager is a big Star Wars fan, so all of our environments are Star Wars themed.
David, sorry, I have a question for you. Does Rapid7 provide hardening scans?
From Insight VM, yes, we have things like CIS benchmarks that you can run against your environments. I think we've got in excess of 5,000 policies that you can run. And then, yes, within Insight CloudSec as well, we've got the CIS hardening you can run across Azure, GCP, and AWS environments, as well as best practice as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so what we are doing now is for IDR Ultimate customers. So that is, let's quickly go back. That's these customers here. You now get your own instance of Velociraptor hosted by Rapid7. So if I wanted to, I could pivot off to the Velociraptor platform. That's our digital forensics incident response platform here. And what we can do is we can set up what we call hunts. So I can go for a hunt, let's say RDP. We can select the artifacts. So these artifacts are pre-configured by the community. So let's have a look. Event logs, RDP authentication. These artifacts here set up by the community. So we can see here the source. So this is pre-configured, ready to run. We configure the parameters, specify the resources as well. So we could say, okay, we will focus on a specific operating system, for example. We can then review that and launch the scan in the environment. I'm just going to go to one we did earlier. So here we use this resource. We've got the notebook here that's pulled back. This hunt rather. We can see all the clients that it went and hunted on, and then the notebook that was pulled back. So these are all the details that we've ingested from this hunt. We got the overview as well, the requests that you saw within the artifacts. So it's a really powerful tool for kind of forensics and incident response. And then the other thing that we're also incorporating is ongoing checks. So I've got a couple of screenshots for this. So what we can do is within the client section, we can actually set up an ongoing check to be completed. So we would configure all, and this is like an ongoing monitor for PowerShell events. So we would set that up, and then that would then run on all of the clients that we specified on an ongoing basis. From there, we can then deliver those events into Insight IDR. So when it comes to, let's go into our investigations. Let's clear all, and we can see here this PowerShell event. I can go into the alert details. So anything starting with alert. So that's going back here. Any kind of event monitoring starting with alert will automatically go into Insight IDR, assuming you've got the ultimate version of Insight IDR. You can have Velociraptor as a community tool, but that is not integrated. So if you download the free version, it won't be integrated into Insight IDR. You have to have Insight IDR Ultimate licensing. And then we see here, we've got the full dump of the payload. So we see here all the event data that's been grabbed. Now, this is I think it's a suspicious process start event. Right, so it's something that Insight IDR would pick up anyway, but it kind of gives you an idea of the power of Velociraptor as a investigation tool. And so finally, bringing this all together, we had the ability within our threat intelligence platform. Let's go back to our dashboard. So phishing. I'm just going to grab one that's actually okay. So with phishing alerts, we can essentially discover domains that are that threat actors have spun up, ready to start a phishing campaign. See, this website is under construction. We then have the takedown facility within Threat Command. So we can actually submit that takedown request on your behalf. We can see here that the historical success rate is approximately 86%, usually within 6 days. Now, this is pretty damn good for the industry because you've got things like domain registrars potentially in different countries to deal with. Sometimes you have language barriers. We generally have pretty good relationships with those domain registrars. Obviously, there are some countries who are less friendly at present times, but it's generally quite a good success rate across the industry. We can then ingest that data as well into Insight IDR. So just to give you an idea, we've got our detection rules here, and I can look for threat command rules. See if we've got a phishing one, suspected phishing domain. with a changed A record. So this is an example of a alert. And then we can bring that event data inside IDR. Sure that we've got any investigations to show you here. Let's just have a quick look. Here we go. Threat command, suspected phishing. View the alert details, and it will essentially pivot us off to the threat command platform to then take action. The other thing that we have within the extensions page, let's go back, we have the toolkit section. So whenever people are starting to work with Inside Connect, this is a really cool section to take advantage of. So we have our phishing tackle box, which allows you to create automations that are pre-configured by Rapid7. So for instance, we've got these templates, Office 365 phishing alerts go into Slack or Teams, Exchange, Gmail as well. And then we can add indicator enrichment. So this would be the next section of that logical workflow. So we have gone through a lot today with the Insight platform. Hope you can see how vast and big the platform is. And I will now bring this presentation to a close and give you the opportunity to ask us some questions.
Yeah, we had some really nice questions.
Cool.
Do you have any question that you want to drop into the Q&A box? Otherwise, if you want to, we can always get in touch later. You can email us or Softprom without any problem. We're gonna be happy to answer every question and possibly having some deep dive demo in case you are more focused on some specific products.
Yep.
As you see, there are multiple products in the platform. Each product has been developed standalone. So
Sorry,
it's
yeah. I thought I'd bring the wheel back up just to kind of maybe summarize, I guess. So we've gone through vulnerability management inside VM. We then went to inside CloudSec for our cloud security, inside AppSec for our DAST scanning. We then covered threat intelligence on the clear, deep, and dark web, XDR and SIEM with Insight IDR, and we also covered Velociraptor. And then we brought all of that together with our orchestration and automation tool, Insight Connect. Sorry, mate, I didn't mean to interrupt them, but I thought that it would be good to kind of summarize there.
No, it's fine, it's fine. In the meantime, we had another question from Alexandro. I have to say, he's the most active with the question today. It's fantastic. A little bit about our competition. Well, as you for sure you know, we are in competition with pretty much everyone, right? Because with vulnerability management, we are in competition with Tenable Equalis, application security, Veracode, rather than Invicti, ex Acunetics plus NetSparker. With cloud security, pretty much everyone, Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, Micro Focus, Orca, Wiz. So we are pretty much in competition with everyone. There are some key differentiator, of course, for each solution. As you can imagine, with the CM and XDR, we are in competition with the world. Same applies for threat intelligence. Everyone is doing pretty much threat intelligence today. There are, of course, some vendors that are, let's say, native threat intelligence solutions. So, like I don't know, Record the Future, SOAR. Lots of vendors are doing SOAR. There are some key differentiator. The key differentiator are, for example, some killer feature, let's call it in this way, for our CM solution is the licensing model is based on assets rather than EPS or gigabyte per second, or per month or per day, like, I don't know, Splunk and QRadar or Exabeam. So this is, for example, a big key differentiator for our CM solution. VM solution, I would say that the active risk score, which was also part of your one of first question, Alexandro, the key differentiator is definitely the active risk score and how we go into contextualize all the vulnerabilities and so give some kind of precise remediation steps based on all the context on the vulnerabilities and the right prioritization. With application security, interesting fact is that we are, let's say, the leader in the Dust solution together with White Hat since 2013. We have always been before with our on-premise solution. Now with our full SaaS solution, we are leader in the Dust. We have always the highest score in terms of being better performing rather than the least number of false positives that you can find at the moment. And in that case, with the leader, which is White Hat, the difference is that we are much cheaper. So we are much more affordable for the companies. For cloud security, the interesting thing, I would say, the killer feature is the event-driven harvesting. So instead of always calling by API, we still use events to do some actions, which is something that, I don't know, Prisma from Palo Alto, they're not doing, rather than, I don't know, Wiz and Orca, they are definitely working with the API. For threat intelligence, well, threat intelligence, it really depends on what kind of forums we are monitoring. So I'm not really good into deep and dark web, so I cannot say if we are scanning, checking the best forums, let's say. But definitely the great advantage is having an analyst available 24/7 who's gonna do the remediation and the takedowns. So I would say we are pretty much against everyone. Definitely as a vendor, what we are offering today are two main packages, which is basically cloud security, the solution that we license, and we provide unlimited and for free application security, vulnerability management, and so on, which is something that is a little bit better than, I don't know, if you think about Tenable. Tenable is doing not so much of cloud security. They are doing definitely cloud security, but not that much. They are doing application security, vulnerability management, but they don't have a SOAR. When you go into Qualys, Qualys is doing a little bit better cloud security compared to Tenable. But all the rest, let's say, is pretty much like Tenable, and they don't have SOAR. So this is another really good killer feature. And then if you look at Prisma from Palo Alto with all their platform, they are not doing application security and VM like us, and they have their own SOAR and they have cloud security. So in that case, we'll be strongly in competition with cloud security and SOAR. So as you see, we are in competition with everyone. I believe that Bogdan gave you the right to talk. I don't know if you have any other question, or if you want to go a little bit more in deep into this part.
Hello, Alexandru, Vlad speaking. I would like to ask you if you know if Rapid7 is providing like a threat research center for companies, and also to speak about certifications program, if it is available for certifications. Thank you.
So for the certification, you mean like we are a certification authority and we can release a certification for you?
Yeah.
No, not at the moment. We just got our full compliance for PCI DSS, but we have, as for example, for the PCI ASV, we are still working with a third-party vendor. So it's not us that is giving you the PCI DSS compliance certification, but this third-party vendor is using our solution in order to give you the compliance. This is the first example that comes to my mind. And the other part was, sorry, the threat research.
Threat Research Center. This will be a tool, let's say, to be up to date for the security teams, cybersecurity teams, with the latest types of attacks. Let's say this will speed up the process of enhancing the security within companies, and as well small and medium businesses that may not have the budget in order to cover the full cybersecurity solutions, you know.
So at the moment, the answer is no. We don't have this project, let's say, in the roadmap. What we are seeing is that we are kind of covering this with our MDR or different packages, let's say, and managed threat complete. services because our team is working closely with the research and lab.
Yeah, so I just to jump in as well, I guess the Rapid7 blog would provide a lot of up-to-date information around active campaigns. If that's if that kind of fits with what you were thinking. So in fact, let's just go back. So we have our emergent threat response. So this here is the kind of blog on all of the active campaigns that are going right now as they kind of evolve. So this would probably be a good, I'll send this into the chat actually. I think I can. Hosts and panelists. No, we want to go into the, can I write it in the Q&A? See if I can send it into the chat. Hopefully that works. But yes, you should be able to see from this site here all of the active campaigns that our emergent threat teams are seeing evolve. So this is kind of what we are seeing in live customer environments, as well as stuff that our emergent threat team is picking up within the threat landscape. So I think this would probably fall into that category. But no, it doesn't have like the official name of well, I can't remember what you used. It was like a evolving threat center or something like that, I think you said. But yeah, I would say this would fit into that requirement.
Okay. Any other questions?